Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 77 of 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, Katie, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Grace.
Hi everyone.
And EJ.
Hey everybody.
Today we will be doing our buddy ranking. Yeah, we're doing a buddy ranking.
Yep.
Of course. So this one's gonna be for seasons 2 to 4, and we'll do 5 and 6 at a later date. And yeah, of course, this won't be like every single scene, but we will have other mentions and stuff. But yeah, this is gonna be so much fun. I'm excited.
I know. So far we have 17 total that we're going to rank. So yeah, there's a lot of good scenes.
And then we need to submit it to Fox as evidence on why they should make Buddy official.
Oh,
Census to writers / showrunners / people
Mhm.
911. Buddy exists, whether if you want to realize it or not.
right.
But anyways, yes, let's get to it. So 17, and then obviously 17 is lowest and 1 is highest as rankings go. But
Not-
17.
Any of us hate any of these scenes? It's just
No,
like,
no.
what really works here for us.
Right. So 17 for me is when Eddie was yelling at Buck in the grocery store about like filing the lawsuit and like saying like, oh, like I can't even talk to you, like Christopher misses you and that kind of stuff. The reason why like this is low for me is just because I hate the lawsuit era. I hate like that whole idea. Like this is kind of one of the reasons why I don't even watch season 3 that much, and if I do, I don't watch these episodes where I skip all the parts that have to do with the lawsuit, because it is the dumbest arc in the history of 911. Like, just not a fan.
I mean, that was mine too. Exactly what Katie said. We all hate the lawsuit arc. We all think it's dumb. And so and the grocery store is one of the most cringier scenes, but it also is one that does technically count as Buddy, because Eddie is not happy that he can't talk to Buck at all. So it's included, but it's a reminder of the travesty that was made of the first half of season 3.
Honestly, ditto to what both of you said about it, because mine's the same. I think that was, I mean, there's going to be angst, there's going to be drama in between relationships, but, and it's also like Eddie saying, like, I couldn't even call you to bail me out of jail if that was something I needed help with, or, it's just, and I wasn't a fan of the scene, and I'll watch the first couple of episodes of season 3, then I'll usually skip over the couple of lawsuit episodes and then go into the later episodes.
I mean, none of us are in a hurry to skip the tsunami.
I mean, yes, favorite emergency, duh.
Right.
Exactly. That's literally the best part of season 3.
Right.
Facts.
And there's a lot of amazing episodes in season 3. I just tend to skip over some of those just because I'm like, no, I don't want to watch that stuff. I mean, just like we kind of say that season 1's the season that shall not be watched.
The lawsuit era is the era I pretend doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The era we are still in denial about happening.
Exactly. So 16 for me was Buck telling Eddie how like I just want you to talk to me, even if it's to say that you're still mad. Eddie's like, I'm not mad. When you decided to sue the department to make Cap the bad guy, did you ever stop for a minute to think that what that could do to us? And I'm just like, okay, I don't know, like I just don't like any of these like scenes that are like part of that, I guess, storyline. But like, it's not terrible, but it's just not something I would really put. Obviously we're not going to put at the top, the boyfriends are fighting.
Right.
So
yeah, for me it was 213, the era of Chimney Begins, even though I believe this was technically episode after Chimney Begins. But it's Buck in hospital jail, and Eddie tells Buck that Maddie being abducted by Doug isn't Buck's fault. It's honestly just one of those scenes that And I just generally say that about these couple episodes because I almost never watch them. It just doesn't really do anything for me. Like, it's sweet, but like I just don't watch it. It's not it's one of those scenes where it's hardly going to make or break the ship if it is included or isn't.
Right.
Yeah, for me, my 16 is actually Buck and Chris surprising Eddie with a healthy coffee maker, because I mean, it was cute, just like you said, you know, none of these scenes we hate. It's just that's where it landed on this, you know, as I was numbering them out, like this one just kind of landed there. I think it's cute. It was a funny scene. I just don't think maybe it just didn't progress the relationship along. I don't know. But honestly, tomorrow you could ask me and I'd probably say like completely different rankings for a lot of these. So this is just how I'm feeling at this moment.
Right. So 15 for me is Buck apologizing for the lawsuit to Eddie. And he's just like saying like I really am sorry. So whatever it takes you to forgive me. And Eddie's like, I forgive you, just don't do it again. And it's like, apparently it's like the last time they hugged. And it's just like, okay, that's cute. But like, also like, this is where it lands just because, you know, a lawsuit. No,
Right.
that's how I feel.
Yeah, so mine is the coffee maker one. And like, it was a cute play on things. But it was a cute moment, but it wasn't enough of a moment to top any of the other ones here. Other than the previously mentioned 17. And so it lands here. It's a great scene. We love future tense, but that is where it is at for me.
Right. And for me, I'm actually same as Katie with the whole Buck apologizing for the lawsuit. And I saw the note in the list that this was the last time they hugged, I was like, is it? But I guess it kind of is, because we haven't really had that. It's almost like, I don't know, I'm not even going in there because, you know, I could have a whole rant about that. But it's nice to see that Eddie forgave him, or that, you know, he wasn't mad, that kind of stuff, you know, just warning him to not do stupid stuff like that again. Yeah, it's just how it fell in the ranking of others, because there's a lot more amazing scenes to me, so that was just where it fell.
Right. So 14, this is like the hospital jail scene, and it's like a moment just because it is Buck and Eddie, but it's sweet. It's like Eddie being there for Buck, obviously, during this, like, you know, terrible time, but it's not like, it's sweet in that aspect, but that's just where it lands just because of that. And this is a good spot for me, at least.
So mine is, let's see, 14. So mine is actually when Buck tells Eddie, I just want you to talk to me, even if it's just say you're still mad. And he says, I'm not mad. When you decided to sue the department to make Cap the bad guy, did you ever stop for a minute to think what it could do to us? Because, well, there's the inclusion of us. And I love that. It was very much a couples arguing moment, without it being strictly a couple. And Fox good on that. It was probably, this is actually one of the only scenes I really like in the lawsuit. Not this particular moment, just the overall, like when they finally walk in the firehouse. So these do rank a little bit higher for me. But like, again, lawsuit era, awkward moments. Yeah, it's here. I like it. Didn't top anything else.
So for me, 14 was just so again, like, this was very cool. And, you know, we've seen it in other episodes where the 118 has the keys to everybody's apartments just in case something happened. And, you know, Eddie in 301, when he let himself into Buck's apartment and Christopher's there, and that whole scene it was good. I thought it was amazing that Eddie was, you know, giving Buck a kick in the pants, because this is, you know, he had the aneurysm or the blood clot and all the drama that happened with that, so he couldn't go back to work like he originally had thought. And I think there was a comment from Eddie about, you know, your life's not over just because you're not a firefighter anymore, and Buck's like, yeah, says the firefighter. And so it's just kind of a thing. I mean, it was a good kick in the pants though, because it's like Eddie got to point out, hey, you know, Christopher doesn't feel sorry for himself, and he's got his own limitations. And amen, I'm all for like Buck and Christopher having time together. So I loved it, but again, that's just where it landed. I think there's some more powerful scenes later on. So yeah.
So 13, mine's actually that same exact scene. For me, it's just okay, like parts of it, I'm just like, okay, that's like adorable. Like there's a point where like Eddie pulls the covers off Buck and Buck just pulls them back. And it's like, okay, that's like very like, I don't know, coupley, but it's also like this is just where it's at. Like it's not a major moment, but it's also just like it is great.
Mhm.
Yep.
So mine is so mine's a scene where Buck isn't thrilled with the idea of Chris going to summer camp. He's like, whoa, 2 weeks away from home. Is Chris kind of young for that? I mean, what if something happens? What if he gets homesick? He totally outdads Eddie at this moment.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh, that's
funny and adorable. It's it doesn't land low in the rankings because it's a bad scene at all. In fact, it's enormously endearing scene. Just lands here, but it's just one of those that whenever I watch it, it has that like special like feeling attached to it of, oh my gosh, Buck is totally his
right. Co-parents of the year.
Amen.
For me, my 13 was Buck and Eddie talking in 306 about, Buck saying, I just want you to talk to me, even if it's just to say you're mad. And then that's when Eddie confesses, like, well, I'm not mad. It's when you decided to talking them about us. One, I thought it was awesome that they brought up us as their relationship, yet to be determined what it is. And yeah, TBD. I think it was good. I'm always for healthy communication. So like Buck calling him out and saying, look, just tell me if you're mad or, pissed off at me. He's like, because Buck had the right to know and be able to make amends for what he did. So Eddie shutting him out is not going to help any of that. Plus they work together. So whether Eddie likes it or not, at some point, yeah. So another great scene. Couldn't make it into my top 10, but that's okay. There's awesome ones later on.
Right. Yeah. So 12, my 12 is Buck surprising Eddie with the Hildy. That scene is just so funny. And it's so freaking funny. Like when I think about that episode, I laugh at that. So you see Eddie in that whole episode being a technophobe, which is so funny and weird, and it's just great. And I just find like all the Buddy, there's so much Buddy in that episode. Like you could literally do a ranking on just that episode. Like I feel, and it's funny. Like, and I love it. It's a good middle for it.
Yeah.
Well, so mine for 12 is again back to lawsuit when Buck's like, I'm sorry. So whatever it takes for you to forgive me. And Eddie interrupts with, I forgive you, just don't do it again. And again, it mainly landed further up because it's the last time they've hugged, which is a travesty.
Yeah.
And I never realized this before, now I'm appalled. But it's mostly landed up here because of that. But it is just generally a cute resolution to an otherwise sort of iffy time because it's mending one of the favorite relationships on the show, no matter how you may define the relationship. And it's just very satisfying to see my boys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now I put it here because I vaguely remember the scene, so I cannot quote it completely, but it's when Buck said, I had to do it, and Eddie's, I know you did. It's when Buck and Bobby come back from the hospital after Buck did some stupid stuff in 405, and Eddie's just kind of waiting for him with his hands on his hips, like, well, just, so it was a cute scene. I think we find a lot with, the first responders and Eddie and Buck, they kind of take, and they sometimes do way more than they should, and even though they know that, they still do it. And then others are like, why did you do this? And they're like, because I had to do it. And sometimes it's to prove themselves. Other times it's for other reasons. And so I don't know. I liked it. I liked Eddie being the one waiting for him. Kind of like the second, the husband standing waiting for his other husband to come back.
Yeah, definitely. Cute. So number 11, mine was like Eddie playing video games with Buck and Chris and saying how it's his kind of therapy. Honestly, I didn't remember this, but also like I like these moments where they're like, doing like where Buck comes over and they're playing video games, which it's cute. Like the little family, the little Diaz Buckley family.
Yeah.
I just love it.
Oh, agreed. So mine is when Eddie lets himself into Buck's apartment and drags him out of bed to spend time with Christopher. As EJ said, when she did this ranking. Kick in the pants. We love a good solid kick in the pants. It also does set up our favorite emergency, the tsunami, which it's great for that. But just as like a buddy scene, I love how it speaks to a real friendship, a real relationship. When you're able to pull off that shit and know that they're not actually going to be mad at you. Because he lets himself in this apartment, drags him out of bed, and then drops his kid off on him in the same 5 minutes.
Yeah, because Carlo's out of town. Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we love it. Yeah. We love it. So that's where it landed. Just out of my top 10, but still wonderful.
Yeah, my number 11 was Buck in hospital jail. I think it's so funny that it's cute. I mean, obviously there's a reason why he was there. You know, he did something he wasn't supposed to do. Athena caught him.
Mom caught you.
Mama caught you. She's like, and the day's still young. And you know, that whole scene, but just having Eddie there for him, and Eddie at the time was going through enough stuff and drama with Shannon, and so I feel kind of for him, and you know, still he's there for Buck, which by now they've become really close friends. And I think of all the people that could have talked to him, I think Eddie was probably the only one that could really get through to him. And then, you know, there's always the add-on of, you know, Bobby giving them the ultimatums of, hey, now this is what you're going to do so Athena doesn't lose her badge. So that always adds on to that. That's kind of cute.
Top 10.
All right.
So number 10. Mine's the kitchen scene in 309 and stuff, and then Buck's just like, you want to go for the title, and I writers, like, you're trying to tell us that like Buddy doesn't exist, but you gave us the gayest scene probably ever.
So gay.
It's so freaking gay. Oh my god, like they implied things that they did not want to make it seem that way, but like that is so freaking gay and stuff, and it's just like I love it. Like it's a great, like it really is.
Yeah, so mine's the same one. I'm sorry. You can't look at that posturing. The thumbs in the belt buckles, slight lean forward, like the whole strutting. You cannot look at that and tell me that they're straight. My God. And it's one of those where I'm like, you're telling me, you are trying to tell me that if this was a heterosexual pairing, they would not be falling into bed with each other right about now.
You have a point. You have a point.
It's so good. It's so freaking good. Like, writers, come on.
Yeah.
But also, we love you for giving us this thing. Now, give us freaking Buddy.
For sure. I know, right? So it's funny because I was looking through here and it's like, okay, you guys have, I was like, I feel like I should have like ranked these again. But no, for me, my number 10 was the Feature 10's Buckley Diaz game nights. I love that they're spending time together. I think that's a great thing. And yeah, not much to say about it.
Yeah,
those were some good ones.
For sure. So number 9, mine's the I had to do it, and like I know you did scene from 405, Buck Begins, and I don't know. I do like it, like and stuff, because it's like, you know, Buck went through the ringer in that episode, and then like after he had to get himself checked out, it's like, okay, yeah, we know and stuff, and I don't know. I just love it. Just the look, like I remember the look Eddie gave Buck. It's just like, I love it.
So once again, mine is the same as Katie. I agree with this one. But also at the same time, when I was describing the kitchen scene, I feel like I should actually have ranked that a little further up. So a little bit of regret on that one. However, I'm just gonna stick with the I know you I had to do it. I know you did. No, it was a really decent scene. And I kind of wish they'd had a little bit more interaction in that one. But the fact that he was the one waiting, he was also the one to give the news about Buck's parents being there.
Yeah, you have visitors.
Yeah, he was kind of there to warn him. Like massive protective partner energy. Yeah, we love it. And then also him just clearly knowing Buck so well.
Right.
He's like, of course you did.
Yeah, I know you did. Yeah, for my number 9, I actually said the kitchen scene in 309, which I love it. I think it's a great scene. Again, like Katie and Grace said in 10, that there's there's no question that those two are not completely straight. Just saying, like the writers have not written them to be that. And so I don't know many men that would do that to each other if they were just platonic friends. Yeah.
100%.
All the men I know that would do that to each other are extremely gay. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Also, you could cut the sexual tension between them with a knife. Just saying.
I know, right?
Actually, you might need a chainsaw. That stuff is
Yep. So number 8, mine is the future tense Buckley Diaz game night. Like when Buck and Chris are playing video games and Eddie's just paranoid AF. It's just like it's so funny, and it's just like I love it. I love when they play video games. So, and they're always playing the same game, and I love it. Oh, we love it.
Yeah, we do. So mine is when Eddie and Buck constructed the skateboard for Chris, and they take him out on it for the first time. This is just really heartwarming and sweet. It's them being dads too. Christopher, no freaking doubt about that. It's just it was just a really sweet scene, and it honestly did not work for anyone except them to be there for it.
Well, and in that episode previously, Eddie had gone to Buck to talk about it. So I'm like, who else would be there to do it?
Exactly.
For my number 8, I said the 201 that started it all. You can have my back any day. Yeah, or you could have mine. And I was like, I love that scene. Because in 201
energy, we love it.
Yeah, I mean, when we get 201, obviously Buck is jealous and peacocking a little bit because he's thinking Eddie's trying to take over, and now he's the new one in the station and is trying to act like he knows everything, and and Eddie calling him out in the episode and saying, like, you don't have to be threatened by me. And then we see the progression through the episode of them working together and Buck having to realize, okay, maybe he really does know what he's doing, and they go through a really tense scene there. And yeah, so I don't know, I like it. It's a good starting point for them. And as you can see, we've got at least 17 amazing scenes that we're talking about, plus many more, so it's built something.
Yeah. So number 7, so this is for me, it's when Buck isn't thrilled about Chris going to summer camp. It's just like you can't like watch the whole series and then get to the scene and be like, nope, that's just Eddie's friend. Like Buck is acting like a father, and they write this and they want to say that like, nope, buddy who? No. And I just love it. It's like I love when they let Buck just be a second dad to Chris. It's adorable.
Yeah.
So mine is the future tense Buckley Diaz game nights. I just love when they're acting as a family together. And of course, future tense is hysterical because that's when Eddie's in his technophobe phase. And so I just I just love the level of co-parenting. Like when Chris was like, can we go to your house and play video games? And Buck just looks at Eddie and he's like,
oh yeah,
you try it. And he's like, I think we're going to skip out on that.
Yeah. And like, have you ever heard of Scrabble? What's Scrabble?
Oh yes. What's Scrabble? Like any kid now.
And it's like he has a natural deference to Eddie as the legal, biological, and recognized parental figure, but also I love how Chris treats him as like the fun parent. Like, maybe you'll get me out of this.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, my number 7 was also like same as Katie's, Buck not being thrilled about Chris going off to camp. I'm like, that's co-parenting 101. I mean, and yeah, you could say it's the fun uncle and he's just gonna miss his little fun little nephew that he hangs out with, but I'm like, no, this is more parenting stuff. Like, what if because that's always one of the parents is usually always more okay with their kids going away for camp or whatever. So I'm like, Yeah, this is
Basically,
definitely...
let's put it like this. You can bet Eddie had the same freak out the first time or not Buck, but Chris went over for a sleepover.
Probably. Most parents do.
So that is a very parent thing to do.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because even in that scene, when Buck says that, he's like, "Aren't you guys supposed to be encouraging me that this is a good thing?"
Oh,
and everyone's like, "What if? What if?"
Yeah. He's trying so hard to talk himself into it, and the Buck's like, "Oh, but what if this happens?"
But what if? What if? What if? Yeah.
Literally. So number 6, mine's the "you can have my back any day." Yeah, or you can have mine. I love that. And it's just so good. And like I love it. It's like the start of Buddy. And it's just like things are really weird on that episode. Like, because we had like, Bugs acting super jealous, especially when like, because this is the episode when the calendar came up and Eddie's like taking picture or Buck's taking pictures and Buck's trying to be better than Eddie and be like, no, I gotta do this and do that. Like, I have to look like I'm stronger. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? So to see him at the end, like, just be like, oh, he's okay. It's just great.
Yep.
Yes. Mine is Eddie saying that playing video games with Buck and Chris is his kind of therapy. And I'm just, it's one of those things where you're like, honey, you need so much more therapy than that. But also, yes, that works for now.
For now, you'll get some later.
Nah, we'll have to discuss therapy again later, but you're trying. It's just it's cute. I love that. It's right after that kitchen scene too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's right after that kitchen scene. And so you finally have that tension snapped from there, and then you have like the Buckley Diaz family together.
Yeah, all on the couch.
It's just precious.
All on the couch that Buck used to have. Oh, sorry.
That Buck used to have. Him and his couch.
See, that's what his couch was for, was to hang out with Chris and Eddie. Nothing else. Anyways, that's beside the point. So my number 6 is "you two have an adorable son" from 210. I think it's such a cute thing. And, I know that the conversation that Eddie and Buck were having on the fountain definitely was not relationship related in the way like that, but they were talking, they were being friends, sharing things. Sometimes I'm thinking a little more than what friends might share. I don't know. Depends on the friendship, I guess. And it's just how the assumption that they're together was just like, and I know there was a lot of rumors and stirring of fans saying that was, they did that on purpose for the fans and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, well, whether you did it or not, it's cute. And I don't know. It was, for me, I think it was one of the times when I started to really think, okay, yeah, there's something here between the two of them. It's not just a friendship that's growing.
Right. Yeah. So top 5. So my 5 is the same scene actually, and it's just such a great scene. And I knew like there are a couple of scenes where I knew, okay, these are gonna make the top 5, or like I was like, okay, these have to make the top 5, and this was one of them. And it's just such a great scene, and I just like how like the comments made of like, oh, this is their kid. And Buck's the only one like that, like was part of that. Like Eddie doesn't even, I highly doubt Eddie even knows about that. But it's just, it's really cute. And it's funny because like they didn't even know each other like maybe a couple of months, and then this happens. And for a lot of people, I think this was like the scene where if they didn't see Buddy before this is the scene where they're like, oh, now I get it. Now I see it.
Yeah. Mine is the one "you can have my back any day," or you could have mine. It's the one that starts it all. It's Eddie with the floofy hair, which is one of my favorites.
Yes.
But it's also Buck being a little less jaded than he is a little like more recent seasons, because by this point it's just a little more world worn. We love it, but at the same time, like I look back on this with fondness because he's still a little bit of a bouncy, energetic. Yeah, he's very much a golden retriever in this scene.
100%.
And it was definitely a great culmination to the tension they'd had going, because they'd had all that tension. So much tension between the two of them through that episode. I was glad it didn't go on more than that. Like it resolved in that episode. But also we've been able to see the effects from that truce from here on out. So it's a very satisfying scene.
Yeah, for sure. For my number 5, I actually said it was Eddie and Buck and Chris playing video games, and Eddie saying this is my kind of therapy. And I'm like, I'm all for therapy. And, this is not the only way for therapy, but I know a lot of people get, relieve some tension by playing video games. And, yeah, it was cute. I love it. Like I was saying, it's, they're on the couch that Buck used to have before he had girlfriends move in.
Yeah.
So
number 4 for me is Eddie and Buck building that skateboard for Chris. It was just so cute, and I just love this, and I love just even how this is brought up in the crossover with Lone Star, and Eddie Marjan seeing that picture, and it's just I love that and stuff. When I think about this scene, that's what I sort of think about, and it's great. We love it.
Yeah.
So mine is because Evan in the last episode of the 4th season, when Eddie tells him about his will. So it made it to number 4, and I really like it because we did just find out about the will, which is if this is not Buckley Diaz family, what the fuck is it?
I know, right?
Come on, people. This was a great scene overall, but just he's carrying on what he said in another scene that we will be talking about in a little further on, which is when he said, "There's no one I trust more with my son than you." He's pulling through on that here.
Yeah.
And that's what means a lot.
Yeah, that scene. So my number 4 is when Buck and Eddie construct the skateboard for Chris and are there when he sees it and uses it for the first time. I think that's really cool and shows how much Buck is willing to go out of the way to help him and how much he supports Chris and loves him like a son. That's what I gotta say about that.
Yeah. So
we're in the top 3.
Yes, top 3. So my 3 is Buck digging in the dirt. Eddie begins. Eddie's trapped, obviously, and he's screaming Eddie, no, Eddie, Eddie. And it's just oh God. If there was a top scenes of this is the gayest scenes ever. Buddy wise, this would be in there. This would be in the top 2, I would say. It would definitely be 1 or 2, because that is just everything this, just that scene is just these are the reasons why I rewatch Eddie Begins over and over. It's not just for Eddie's just beautiful story, it's for Buck's reaction. I can't even tell you how many times I've just specifically watched that scene.
Same. Over and over.
I love it. The emotion, the everything. I love it.
So for me, it's the "You Two Have an Adorable Son" from the 2nd season Christmas episode. And it's just such a wonderful moment. And I love how Buck almost corrected her. He thinks about it. And then he has just the biggest smile when he's like, "Thank you." He would say no.
Right.
Man, that is just the happiness he took in that is what makes it the gayest thing ever.
Yeah.
But
also the secureness in who he is to just go ahead and accept it and not clarify.
He doesn't have to be "Oh no, I'm macho when I'm straight." He's not.
Right.
But he doesn't have to go proving it to anybody.
Right.
Which I would also wonder about season 1 stuff with that.
Yeah, that's true.
For me, number 3 is Katie, Buck digging out, trying to dig for Eddie in 3:15. Eddie Begins. It was so powerful, especially seeing him screaming, and it's like the dawning on his face when he realizes that the hole just collapsed, him rushing at the dirt, starting to dig with his bare hands, and then like the anguish you see on his face when Bobby pulls him back. It's so powerful. But it shows the connection that they have as friends, or more, that they're willing to Buck's willing to fight to rescue Eddie. I love it.
Yeah. So number 2 for me, it's there's no one I trust. No one I trust more with my son than you, Eddie, in 303. I love that scene, and I love all the parts to that, like especially after, and obviously Buck needed that like reassurance, especially after like the tsunami, because like he's like, oh, it's all my fault and stuff, and like Eddie brings up the point that like Chris doesn't see what happened at like Buck does, like, and stuff, and it's a really like, it's beautiful.
So for mine, and this, there was a real struggle between whether I was putting this in number 1 or number 2. And number 1 just barely nudged this out. So my number 2 is Buck digging through the dirt after Eddie gets trapped. You will rip that scene out of my cold dead hands before you take away my love for it. It is an incredible scene, and oh my god, it gives me goosebumps. It gives me chills, but also just the pure devastation on his face is. I feel like I should mention, like, as an add-on to this scene, having so much of Buck in Eddie's like montage that he's using to encourage himself. Just that entire scene is just so incredibly Buddy.
Yeah.
But in such a heartwarming way. Like, again, you'll cry that out of my cold dead hands.
Yeah, I think I counted once, and out of the like 10 or 12 scenes they use, like Buck's in like 9 or 10 of them. Like it was just like this huge number of Buck's a part of. So for my number 2, it's because Evan. I think that scene is super powerful, and Eddie had, after getting shot, and when Eddie woke up, Buck was sitting there telling him that it should have been him getting shot, not Eddie. And Eddie is trying to tell his friend, or in this case, like, I feel like it's more than that now, but because this was end of season 4, and Eddie's like, yeah, no, you are important. You're not expendable. You're not, just because you don't have any ties to like family or friends that, family that, you're expendable, because you're not. And he makes that very clear. And that's when we learn about, Eddie having changed his will just after the well incident, to make Buck legal guardian of Christopher if something ever happened to Eddie. I thought that was very powerful, and it was great to see the trust that Eddie has in him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So top 1, mine is that same scene, the because Evan scene. Like this scene, it's just one of my favorite scenes. Like, you could ask me out of any season what scene would be my top 1, and this one would always be on the top. Like, I just love it, and I don't know, I love like Buck finding out about the will, and I love like this hospital scene. Like, I just like the talk that they had. I love like the whole, like, everything that Eddie like said, and like I love this scene. Like, and I can't even like put into words like everything and why. I just love it.
So for me, it's there's no one I trust more with my son than you. And as I said, this nearly had to battle it. They kind of did have to battle it out for whether it's going to be my number 1 or not. But ultimately, it became my number 1 because literally there's no one Eddie trusts more with his son, the most precious person in the world to him, other than Buck. And that doesn't change even after the lawsuit, even after everything they go through together. As I mentioned, further marked it by him putting in his will to take care of Christopher. Do I think it was rather amusing that it didn't seem like he was ever going to tell him that? Yes.
Right, yeah.
But the fact that he did tell him after the tsunami, because Buck absolutely beats himself up over that, the fact that he does knock it into his head a little bit, that there's no one he would have look after his son. It's incredible. Top one.
Yeah. So my number one is There's No One I Trust More with My Son Than You. That episode was amazing. I remember watching the live Oliver did watching this episode because it was early in the pandemic and he'd asked people like what episode they wanted to watch, and he was like, I think he watched the pilot and then he had him pick the fans vote on another one, and this was the one that he picked. It was the 303 episode, and about halfway through the episode he's like, oh yeah, I remember why you guys wanted me to do this. And watch this one, and the monologue that he had right before this scene and then building up to this scene. Buck's feeling very distraught and in pain and lost, and then Eddie comes over and just like helps him feel not as lost, gives him a reason to push forward. And even in late season 2 with Shannon, Eddie had said, I don't even trust you, and it was to Shannon, like Chris's mother, he didn't even trust to take care of Chris. So
granted, significant reasons for that.
Yeah, exactly. But like just showing just where his trust lies. And he's seen the bad and the people that have in his life that have done bad to him and Chris. And then to have Buck never giving up on Christopher. And he even says that, when he walks out the door, he's like, oh, and thanks for not giving up. I love that scene. I think it's one of my favorites. And there's several scenes that could have easily been number one. Today it was just this one. Like I said earlier, tomorrow it could be completely different, but I'm sure this is definitely top 3 all the time. So
and of course we have honorable mentions. These are all the ones that didn't put on the list but have to be mentioned. Absolutely. So we have Maddie saying to Buck, like, does this man crush on Eddie mean that you're over Abby? Like in early season 2. And I just think it's funny. And there's a lot of scenes like that, because like there was that one moment when Maddie is talking about Chimney, but Buck thinks she's talking about Eddie. Because let me just remind you that they were going to put Maddie and Eddie together.
That's that right. Yeah.
I like to remind everyone of that. Like, just remember that.
That's right.
So yeah, there was that moment. Fucking Eddie and Dosed. Like, if you ever want to think about Buddie, just think about that.
You made him cry.
The only part of Dose that I actually can watch.
Right.
Are those two? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And stuff. Yeah. So then we also have Buck finding out that Eddie has a son, like early season 2.
That was adorable.
During the earthquake. And then after the earthquake, Buck watching, like, bring Eddie to reunite with Chris after the earthquake. And then of course during the tsunami, we have Buck texting Eddie during the tsunami, being like, oh, this is what we're gonna do today, me and Chris, and stuff. And then in 310, we have like Eddie's expression while watching Buck, he's helping Denny and Chris build a gingerbread house.
Yeah,
and Eddie makes a comment of like because him and Hannah are sitting there and it's like all 3 of the kids.
Yeah, it's like get the boys together for Christmas, because Eddie and the 118 had to work for Christmas this year, and so Chris was upset because he couldn't spend Christmas with Eddie.
Yeah, I know, and he kept being like, Buck, can we hang out on Christmas?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, buddy, I'm gonna be working with your dad.
Yeah, and then he comes over and plops down the table. It's like, this sucks. Like,
yeah, seriously.
It's like,
because he's seriously such an overgrown kid, and so watching him play with them, that's great. And then he comes back to the adulting world and it's like, this man sucks. Right. It's like, I just love it.
Yeah. And then all of Jinx, all of Future Tense, of course, Buddy. But like there's moments like in Jinx, like the whole check thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then Buck's going off of how like, oh, this is Buck 3.0, and like they're all like and Eddie's just like, I'm not sure what inspired the upgrade.
Yeah.
The software upgrade.
Right.
If we keep getting like if we're at 3.0 in in season 4. Does that mean we're like on what 6.0? Is this by 2?
Yeah, it just goes up by season.
Right.
Yeah, seriously. I loved this.
I bet you there will be a software upgrade after he figures out whatever the fuck is going on with him in his couch.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, yeah. This was so much fun.
Yeah, I love doing
This is
rankings.
so much fun.
I know, me too. It's my favorite thing. Like, I could literally do rankings for like mostly everyone.
It's hard though sometimes because you like, especially when you have a lot of amazing scenes. And I'm glad we focused on just up until season 4 because, gosh, if we added in 5 and what we've seen as 6 so far, yeah, we'd have a lot longer list.
I know, and like the reason why, like, I was like, oh god, I have to watch all this. But somebody had made like a Tumblr post of like all the Buddy scenes, and like I narrowed it down a lot because they just mentioned like every scene that was Buddy, and I'm like, just because Buddy's in a scene doesn't make it a Buddy scene,
Right.
Yeah.
because that's just
Gotta narrow it down a little bit, buddy.
that's not really how it works. But yeah,
Still, kudos to that one person for saving us some work.
I know.
Yes,
Can you do it for like 5
that-
and
by
6,
that, I
please?
mean-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can bear at that point to like do 5 and 6, but it was great. So yeah, this was fun. Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor. We're also on Spotify, Apple, Google, and Google Podcasts, and anywhere you can get your podcasts. You can leave us a review on iTunes and Spotify. It would mean a lot to us. You guys can follow the podcast on our socials at 91LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can also check out our Discord server. The link is in the description of this podcast and our Instagram bio. And you guys can follow me, Katie, at FloveTarlos on Instagram and TikTok.
You guys can follow me, Grace, at RonanRafflin911 on Instagram and at SheepGirl31 on Twitter.
You can find me,
Bye.
EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram and Twitter.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.